Hello, Rena.
Hello, Dr. Bach.
Welcome, everyone, to a free association conversation between Rena K and myself, Dr. Bach Ho. We're both organic intelligence coaches. We help people reduce suffering and increase capacity to handle more in life with ease using the protocols of organic intelligence. In these live stream free association conversations, Rena and I try to aim both at people who are completely new to organic intelligence and people who already know its basics. We try to find the balance. Today, our topic is a deep dive into organization and disorganization. So, organization, the terms organization and disorganization have technical meanings in organic intelligence, referring to increasing, organizing means moving towards increasing your biological capacity, and disorganizing, referring to a stall in that process, not moving forward in that process, or is maybe even devolving in some cases. And we'll probably get into that. Uh, I would like to begin more generally, for those who to target people who are new to organic intelligence. So while organizing and disorganizing and organization and disorganization have those technical meanings, and we could get into the weeds with that, at the same time, they're sometimes used more casually, loosely, to mean your life is moving in a positive direction. I suddenly stopped seeing Rena. Rena,
I'll come back. I'm
okay,
back. Yeah.
okay. Organizing means your life is moving in a positive direction, and disorganizing in a negative direction. That's a more general, loose understanding, which I'll just run with as a starting point. And one, and so why use that? But why use those technical terms? I guess we would use it. We would use organize and disorganize to refer to your life getting better or moving in a positive direction or a negative direction, just to kind of ping in the background that we're also thinking about the technical meaning of capacity increase or not increasing. So one So with that said, one point I'll just open with is it can be tricky to know if your life is moving in a positive direction or not, at least from an organic intelligence perspective. And maybe setting aside organic intelligence, whether anyone knows anything about it, just you may have a sense yourself, you, the viewer. It may be hard to tell if your life is moving in a positive direction or negative. So that's an interesting starting point, I think.
Mhm.
Some examples. You could have someone who, okay, I'm gonna date. I'm gonna lose some weight. I'm gonna get my teeth straightened. I'm gonna get some photos done. I'm gonna put my profile on some apps and then meet people. And prima facie evidence is that's positive. Yeah, organizing direction. And the underlying reality could be there's your biology is going to maybe your biology is going to move you into the next abusive situation as a larger arc. So that's just a quick example of how we may do things that from a that there's prima facie evidence to ourselves and to others that that's the forward movement, and from a much wider perspective in time and factoring in the underlying biology, it may be not organizing, not a positive direction. One other example, then maybe I'll hand it to you, Rena, is just from people I know, just plucking one of them. He's a very smart guy, very educated, PhD, psychologist, and really tries to work on himself and work through his issues with finding new therapists, new modalities. He tries to date, find other men to date. He's gay. We're both gay. So, and then struggling to think about his dating process and selection of who to date, and then what's the next step in therapy. And so there's a lot of prima facie, like this is forward movement. And at the same time, I pick up on things and I think this is not organizing. It's just whatever you're doing, it's just not gonna work.
Yeah.
So I'll just start there. Like that seems like an interesting starting point. Yeah.
It is. It is an interesting starting point and also interesting examples. So just to reiterate that from the perspective of the self, often what we think is organizing can be disorganizing. What we think is disorganizing can be organizing. So you gave two examples of people who are doing things that they think might be organizing and in fact may be disorganizing. And interesting when you started saying, for example, I had examples in my head of the opposite, where people think their life is going in a really disorganized direction, they feel like they're in a state of chaos and everything's falling apart around them. And the reality is there's all this evidence of, I'm thinking of one person who has historically had these huge expectations for themselves and is used to being able to meet those expectations, like go after things, meet them, and so forth. And now has come up against something that they don't feel they are able to make as much progress. They don't feel like they have as much control over and they can't change. And so there's a lot of upsetness about that. And yet the reality is they've also learned to lower the expectations and see subtle improvements. Like, oh, I saw a tiny, like I moved in the direction in this one tiny way. And learning to see that that actually is organizing, even if it's not the usual way of being able to go, make leaps and bounds, right? So I think it goes both ways,
Mm.
that we often misinterpret what we think is organizing or disorganizing if we're trying to look at our life, right? Um, I don't know if you want to say anything more about that.
Thank you. So sometimes we think we're moving in a positive. I'm reflecting because I think the point is important. Sometimes we think we're moving in an organizing direction, life is getting better, positive direction, but it's the opposite. And sometimes we think life is getting worse when in fact it's moving in a positive direction. Okay.
Yeah.
So what the hell do we do? What the hell do we do? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And for me, I'm thinking, well, the underlying question is like, well, what what is the idea like from an outsider? So you're looking at your persons, I'm thinking of my persons, and I'm seeing them from the outside. What is it that you or I are seeing that suggests, and can we get a better understanding of
Yeah.
that
You
to
know.
possibly give us a better indication for how to assess?
Yes. In the moment, I feel like doing a little bit of self-disclosure. In my personal life, I think I'm definitely organizing consistently and reliably. My life is moving in a positive direction. At the same time, I noted before our live stream that I have a very I see, is this true? I'm just going to say it. I have a very rigid way of living, actually. I do the same things every day, basically. It's very rigid. And if someone was like that, I would think, oh, maybe that's kind of disorganizing because there's not enough flexibility or whatever, something like that. But I just realized I know who I am and I know what I want. And so what I'm doing is just, and I know my personality and temperament. So what I'm doing, I know is organizing because more pleasure, more ease, more orientation, which is where it always comes back to that, right? Okay, so in terms of living life, if you don't know much about organic intelligence, to throw out one idea, one major sign of an organizing direction is do you have access to internal states of low intensity, and that are pleasant? That's one major marker. So whatever you're doing in life, even if you're very ambitious, you want to make progress in your career, you want to make progress in your love life, you want to make progress in different buckets in that life coach wheel thing, or different parts of that pie. Is there an underlying stability in low intense pleasantness as your baseline? That would be a major sign that life is moving in an organizing direction. That's one thing. And part of that baseline would be the big O word, the only word that matters, orientation. Orientation refers to connection to your environment through the senses. which means that your five senses can easily connect to the environment as you live life. What does that indicate? It indicates that your interior state is not too jacked up on intensity, that you're able to still have your attention connect to the environment. It's not hijacked by, I got to get my profile done. I got to date this guy. I got to get better pictures. I got to send this text. I got to wait for this. So
Yeah.
orientation and low intense, pleasant baseline.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we think back to the examples that you gave and I gave, this person who's, I'm gonna get my teeth fixed, I'm gonna get, contacts and glasses, and I'm gonna do all these things, get pictures taken, and all of that can be done and be super pleasurable, right? And then all of that can be done and not be pleasurable. All of that could be done with a sense of ease and curiosity, and I'm super interested in this. I'm kind of excited about it. And something I know because I went through a process of hiring somebody and having them work with me and doing this whole process around, the external appearance thing. And it was super fun. But had I tried it 10 years earlier, it would have been super distressing because of where my biology was. And so it can come to a point where, yes, this is easeful, pleasurable, there's curiosity, there's interest, and I'm liking doing it, even if there's a tad bit of intensity to it because it's new and there's growth that's happening. Same thing with your friend, the psychologist friend, who's trying to grow and keeps pursuing self-growth. There's a flavor, at least in the way you described it, in order to get away from something in themselves. Like there's some kind of unpleasantness in the process, and at least the way you described it, it has that tone and that character to it. It's not being done out of just, oh, I wonder what will happen if I do this. Right? That
Yeah.
curiosity
Yeah.
state. It's like if I don't figure this out, something bad's gonna happen. I'm gonna be alone forever. I'll date the wrong person, or like there's this feeling of I'm being motivated by an anti-value, right?
Hmm.
And that's not pleasurable. And same thing for a person who suddenly learns that, oh, the way I've been pushing myself all of life, and I can, advance myself and my career, and I'm just used to going for what I want and getting it. Suddenly learning that, oh, maybe if I sit back a little bit, maybe if I connect with some more ease around this, the next step in this other area will emerge. And isn't that interesting? That actually feels better than if I try to push in this particular area of life, like you talked about the wheel, right? So this
Yeah.
person was trying to get some health things underway, whereas when it came to career and partners and some of these things they were fine, but around health wasn't making traction, and suddenly it was like, oh, maybe I can't push this one like I used to. And what if I can sit back and find the ease of it? And so you mentioned the three words: ease, pleasure, and orientation. Um, so to me, it's like that was what was jumping out for sure. Even in the examples,
Yeah.
it became really clear. Let alone the orientation piece. Like, can you stay in an oriented state? And you might want to describe that again. But can you stay in an oriented
Yeah.
state while you're doing these things?
Thank you. Um, Orientation, being oriented means that your attention, that a significant part of your attention, 40 to 60%, and that's kind of playful because I don't know how to measure that exactly, but 40 to 60% of your attention could easily connect to the immediate environment around you pretty easily. That means that your interior intensity is not so high that it grabs all your attention, sucks all your attentional energy. Let me press on and throw down more, maybe get a little bit more technical and advanced. Um, Even if you feel like crap and you're chaotic, even if that's your feeling, you may still be doing things that are organizing. And for example, uh, one anecdote that comes to mind is there was this woman who described that her daughter was in some very disturbing emotional turbulence kind of stuff, going through a very hard time, and she moved back with her mom, and the daughter just by impulse began to just start it's a very large house, a lot of things in it, and she began to clean and organize the house. And the woman who was an organic intelligence coach at the time said, "See, she's organizing," and that a light bulb went off in my head. Oh, and that's when I discovered that was one of the first examples of outsight. So I think I'm getting a little disorganized here. I'm kind of talking without chronology, but so the daughter is going through a tough time emotionally. She feels like crap, all kinds of suffering, and just her instinct is, I'm just going to put the forks here, put the spoons in this drawer, put the knives in this drawer. I'm going to clean this. I'm going to go into the attic, and there's a billion things there. I'm just going to sort stuff, organize the house. And then the mother is saying that, so that's probably organizing to her underlying biology. She's not thinking about that. She may not even know any of these concepts. She doesn't feel great. I mean, she feels like horrific. But oh, if she's organizing the house, there's orientation, right? I have to look at the fork. I have to look at the knife. I have to, there's a dirty spot on this window. I have to orient. And I'm organizing my environment. And one major ID in organic intelligence is called outsight. Outsight, which and I've been for a long time trying to come up with an exact good definition for this. I don't have it yet, but it refers to, it's connected to projection, but I want to kind of not worry about that right now. But it's when you are interacting with the outer, the environment, in a way that organizes you. That's probably not super accurate, but I'm just going to go with it. So she's outsiting, she's having an outside process as she organizes the house. She may not think she's growing from that. She may not, but she is. And it's a very notable, powerful phenomenon in life, according to organic intelligence, when we organize through these world interactions that we may not even associate with positive direction. And some therapists would say, well, oh, you're avoiding, you're trying to not, you should be really doing exposure therapy on when the guy raped you, and or instead of organizing the house, right? So yeah.
Yeah, that's pointing me just in a slightly different direction or similar. Like it's a jumping off point. I was thinking of what you're saying earlier, that the idea of organization is relative to the external environment and what's happening in the external environment. So the biology is constantly in this feedback response to an action and response with the external environment. And so what is organizing in one moment depends on what's also happening in the external environment. So if the external environment is in a really peaceful place, and it's like it is now, there's a little bit of cloud cover, there's the birds, there's a bunny that just hopped by, the flowers are blooming, there's not even a lawnmower going, it's really quiet, right? Like in this immediate moment, everything is really quite cool and copacetic and actually quite organized. And if my biology was responding in a way that is a lot of chaos due to my own internal state, that would be a mismatch, right? Because it's not in relation to what's going on externally. Likewise, if you're in a situation where sirens are going off on a regular basis and you're heading into, bomb shelters, or, there's, really, unpleasant things that are happening around you and there's chaos around you, well, sitting in a really calm, I'm super organized way wouldn't make sense for the environment, that you need to actually take action, and that action is going to be somewhat chaotic, right? And so all of that, whether it's organizing or disorganizing for us, is not just about our long-term life and the projection that it's going, it's also in relation to an environment.
What you're saying, what is in your current environment, what is the apt, what is it in your self-interest to do in the given moment, in the given situation? And what is in your self-interest to do? I'm trying to figure out, reflect to you, and you let me know. What is in your self-interest to do may require, maybe to prime an internal state of I'm chill, or maybe to be jacked up on intensity so you can
Take
put out
action.
literal fires, let's
Right,
say.
right, right,
Yes.
right. Yeah, it seems to be like um, having to, um, I don't know, you got a parent, an older parent who, is getting to the point of needing care. And so you've decided to disorganize your life such that you could go move in with them and provide care. And that seems like the right thing to do for whatever reasons, right? And so how do you define that? Like there on the short term, for sure, maybe even on the long term, it could interrupt your career focus. It could interrupt where you're going in where you are directing your own personal energies. It might even impact your own health because of carrying at odd hours for somebody. And so, in that way, it could look disorganizing and maybe even feel disorganizing in the moment. And yet, um, in the long run, it's what the biology is moving in the direction of, and there's going to be some kind of feedback that comes in from the external environment of doing the caretaking process that would allow the biology to go, that feels good. I'm glad I'm doing this. This is important to me. This is part of my values. Um, and so it's again, it can be hard to parse out what actually is what's most organizing and disorganizing. And sometimes we don't even know until we get the feedback.
Yeah. Okay. Do I do this or that? Do I move in? Do I help my parent or not? If I do help, in what way, how much, or and how much do I back off? That's you're suggesting trial and error to figure that out. And then I would add, I mean, we're always consulting pleasure and orientation and ease
Right,
as
right.
markers. Is life getting harder and harder and less pleasant? That'll be a
Mhm.
sign of, so in some sense, in some sense, it's very easy to know if your life is moving in a positive or negative direction. If you're just suffering more and more and more and more and more, that's negative. If you're feeling better and better and better and better and better sustainably, that's positive. So in some sense, it's sometimes obvious. And there are also the tricky cases of you're trying to do stuff, and it's not clear. And there's
Right, right.
pleasures and pains and intensity and relaxation, but it's kind of a glob and all over the place. So it's hard to tell.
Yeah. So the thing that, as you're saying that, it's coming to me is one of the ways we can tell not just our life externally, if that's getting better, but if what's happening in our interior space is also improving. And so, because I work so much with people who suffer from chronic shame, I'll often say that one way we know that the thresholds are increasing is oftentimes not yet about life changing that much, right? It's sometimes about is there a greater friendliness towards yourself? Do you have less patience for where you are at in life? Are you pushing yourself less? Are you kind of getting off the roller coaster of the perpetual self-improvement project based on unrealistic expectations? Like it's much more of an interior process of, patience and kindness towards the self that often, like I'm helping some of my people I work with to be, a measure or a guide for the fact that there is organization on board. So sometimes I think it's also the interior state. I can go help my parents, and is that, it may not be easeful, it may not even be really pleasurable. Okay, I can stay oriented in it. Okay, yeah, that's there. But what's happening inside me in my internal? Am I still processing through resentment towards them, or am I feeling my heart overflow towards their suffering? And in turn, that's, if you want to use the outside word, I'm connecting up with my own suffering and what it means to be human and that we're in this all together, right? Like that would be a different interior experience and would be also its own valid indicator.
Noticing You're talking about noticing subtle internal shifts that are clearly positive or that may be positive that seem positive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I
as
think
a
so.
sign of of organization.
Hmm.
Organization could be evidenced by things happening out there. Organization or disorganization could be evidenced by things happening out there and things happening in the interior. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
May I move on to, since
Sure.
I have a few minutes, I wanted to introduce one thing. So, uh, Rena you just mentioned thresholds, and we had a discussion a few weeks ago about what those are and different ways of different meanings to them. You were using them in the sense of shifts, noticing shifts, thresholds as changes or shifts that one notices that are positive. Um, Inorganic intelligence. So, getting technical for a moment, organization would refer to moving towards something called auto-organization. Auto-organization is the process of your biology increasing in its capacity to process intensity and information and handle life more easily. That's auto-organization. And then, which is referred to in the technical sense by organization used technically. And according to organic intelligence, we auto-organize, or we organize in this technical sense, when our biology is able to rise, when our when we reach certain levels of intensity called organic intensity thresholds. And this requires that our biology at a starting point is below that threshold and then rises to meet that intensity, which may coincide with you do something in life and you get more intensity, and then you reach some point, that organic intensity threshold. Sorry for being a little technical here, but I have a point to make because of this. And then you deactivate from that point. Okay. Why did I go into this? So there is, in some cases, I don't think too frequently, Steve, the founder of Organic Intelligence, has used the word disorganize to refer to the feeling of the chaotic feeling that one has at or around the organic intensity threshold. So in that special meaning, the disorganization there would be a positive thing, not what we opened with in this live stream, which is your life is getting worse and worse and worse. So in this special context, when we rise to meet these organic intensity thresholds, there can be a feeling of disorganization, of chaos, of I'm kind of at sea, things are reassembling internally, things are kind of chaotic in the environment, or like at least I see chaos in the environment, and I'm kind of at a crossroads, or something happens in a friendship, something happens at work, and then the intensity rises, and then you're in a flummox. This can be very organizing, and that disorganization is part of the organizing process. So I'm just noting that, and is very different from the mainstream idea of no pain, no gain, which is a large topic. But so from the mainstream, you get this idea that, yeah, life is hard, life is uncomfortable, and it's good. It's good to do what's hard. It's good to be uncomfortable. It's good to feel out of control because that's how you grow. That's a fundamentally different idea from the feeling of chaos and disorganization, specifically at organic intensity thresholds,
Yeah.
which is a large. I'm going to stop there because I feel like I just went on. But yeah,
Well, if you don't mind, to
yeah.
take your beautiful explanation on a technical level, I'm going to take it into a metaphorical level
Thank you.
and see if we catch a couple people with that, right? So oftentimes I will describe that using a seed analogy. And so when you take a seed, it's got a hard coating. That hard coating is protecting it. It'll allow seeds to last thousands of years. And then you can plant them. But when you plant them, it's actually the moisture that starts to break down the coating of the seed and then activates enzymes that then break down the kernel of that seed. And all of that looks like a disorganizing process. It's a breakdown of one thing in order for a new thing, which would be a sprout, to emerge. And that sprout has a completely different sense of order to it. It's still part of the seed and the plant and the encoding of the implant to be able to do what it does. And it's a part of the new transition to becoming a full-fledged plant. But in order for that seed to become a sprout, to become a stem and a leaf and a flower or fruit, it has to go through all of these steps where certain things break down first in order for order to be there, right? And that's what and I can't remember if we've talked a difference much between states and traits, that's a momentary state specific experience of, like, and you said the feeling of disorganization, right? So
Yep.
that's a state specific, which is very different when then say the overall trait of moving in the direction of devolving, or the system constantly repeating disorganizing patterns that keep one in high intensity states, right? So one is a momentary state that's part of a larger trait of the direction of organization, versus if something were going in a full down breakdown state. So I don't know if that helps any
Oh,
to take your
I,
much more technical expression and put it in metaphorical language or not, but yeah.
I appreciate, and I want to reiterate one or two things. Organic intel, a mainstream view, which organic intelligence opposes, is that you grow through discomfort and feeling your discomfort and confronting your discomfort, and that's how you grow. Organic intelligence is radically different, radically opposed and opposite. It says you grow through orientation, ease, and pleasure. That's the major arc of growth: orientation, pleasure, and ease. And within that bigger picture, you will go through up and down cycles, reaching these organic intensity thresholds. And at or around those times, there may be feelings of chaos and discomfort, but they will feel fundamentally different from the normal kind of discomfort talks about, because they'll be incubated within orientation and pleasure in the bigger picture. Just to be a little technical, but
Yep,
thank you
yep.
for your seed
Great.
metaphor. Okay, so we're on time. And I enjoyed our conversation. It was very organizing to me, Rena. I hope the
Ditto.
audience go. Oh, any last words? I hope the audience got something from this. Oh, I'll do some boilerplate at the end, but go ahead. Any last word before I do the
Yeah,
ending?
no, I think you summed things up really well. So
Thank you. All right. So to learn more about either of us and the coaching we offer, there will be links in the description. To learn more about organic intelligence, you can read my writing on Substack, link in the description, and explore my video library on YouTube, including the short videos. I meticulously craft my Substack posts and YouTube videos to present substantive content that's direct, clear, and concise. Thank you.